Doing logic, you could be thinking inductively, or you can be doing deductive reasoning, which for the most part is where you find the symbols. For example, the symbol of negation, also called a tilde. It's like a squiggly sign that represents the word not or the concept of not. So the tilde could represent the phrase is not the case that. So if we say tilde P, we really mean it's not P, or it's not the case that P. We're somehow denying, rejecting, or negating the idea that is directly following the tilde. A double negation is to do that twice. So in the double negation, we're saying that P is equivalent to tilde tilde P. Now this is not an equal sign spelled incorrectly. When you have 3 lines instead of 2, you're saying that the transformation can go from left to right and from right to left. So P equals tilde tilde P and tilde tilde P equals P. So it works in both directions. Here we might say that, let's represent P is I'm married to Paul, and it's not the case that I'm not married to Paul. Those two things, what's on the left and on the right of our symbol, are saying the exact same thing. If you ask me, am I married to Paul, I would be giving you the same answer whether I said I am married to Paul, or if I said it's not the case that I'm not married to Paul. Now, I am saying something differently when I do the double negation as when I say it directly. There might be a reason I'm being indirect. But when you ask, is my answer true or false? If it's true when I say tilde tilde P, it will necessarily be true when I say P. And if it's true when I say P, it's necessarily true if I said tilde tilde P, because these are logically equivalent. The rule of double negation is that you can add a pair of tildes, or you could just get rid of a pair of tildes, so long as they're right next to each other, as it is here. Tilde tilde P. You can just get rid of those, and P equals P, just like P equals P. To say P is the same thing to say P. To say P is the same thing as saying, well, it's not the case that not P. You mean P? Yeah. Let's have an example. So here is the rule of double negation used correctly. This is okay. We have a tilde tilde, and then the parentheses, which says that we're kind of offsetting the next argument or premise. And the statement is that if J, then K, and that's where it ends. So here we would read that as not J, then K. Or it's not the case that, it's not the case that, if J, then K. Or it's not the case that, if J, then K. From that, you can logically conclude. It's like saying, if that's true, then an obvious statement is that if J, then K. What did we do? We followed the law of double negation, and we took a pair of tildes that were directly after each other, and we just dropped them. And that's okay. Because saying it's not the case that it's not the case that if you don't like jam, then you probably like kale. We're turning that into, if you don't like jam, then you probably like kale. That's okay. Now, the law of double negation does not allow you to add a pair of tildes in random places, or to drop 2 tildes that are randomly somehow in your proposition or your premise. They need to be directly one after the other. So here's not how to do the law of double negation. You have, it's not the case that if J then K. The statement's blocked off with the parentheses. So the tangent, or the part where there's an aside, is separate from the tilde. This tilde, this not, or is not the case that, applies to the entire aside, or tangent, or whisper, as we said. So this statement is incorrectly transformed into this other statement, if J then K. Now remember, the one where it was accurately used, the conclusion is if J then K. In the one that's inaccurately used as well, if J then K. But because these two tildes are directly after one another, you are saying it's not the case that something. We can just drop the two negations. If they're not directly one after the other, and here they're not, then you can't just drop them. Also, you can't go from if J then K to it's not the case that parentheses, it's not the case that J then K, close parentheses. So you can't add them in random places or deduct them from your idea. They need to be directly one after the other. They need to be a pair, in other words.